Bit of music for you, Louis, to start the morning.
Yeah, there's morning for me and afternoon for others. So should we just get into it? Yeah.
Let's go, Louis. Drive it off.
All right. So thank you everybody for joining. A couple of days before Christmas, so this is actually not a bad way to end the year. Thinking about what you need to do to really strategize about your outreach in 2024. So just want to say thank you everybody for joining. We here at Growth Forum really are trying to help the sales and marketing community really level up and be the very best they can be. And the reason why we're putting this topic together, because recently there was an announcement made, even though Google has backflipped a little bit on their announcement, but there was an announcement made around some of the email guidelines, spam rules, etc. And it took a lot of people by surprise. A lot of people were quite concerned about what this would mean for them. Don't want to get blacklisted. It sent everybody into a bit of a frenzy. And for me, I was like really excited by the change in these requirements, because what I've seen over the past couple of years, especially the last sort of 6 to 12 months, is the amount of cold emails that are going out, poorly crafted message, wrong persona. Like, for example, I'm getting emails saying, would you like help setting up your hospitality business, when I've never been in hospitality? So they are literally just putting contacts into a sequencing tool, and they're using hope as a strategy. So I was really excited by the fact that these changes are coming, because you know what? Sales is actually really hard, and it requires skill, and it requires an art to what we do. Yeah. And, jamming people into a sequencing tool is not great selling. And the reason why I was really excited is because this is what's going to separate the good from the great, right? Or actually the poor from the great. And however, even though these changes have come, there are things that we need to be conscious of, and we should already be doing regardless of what is happening in the market. And one of the best in the business who will help you today really think about what you can do to set up your email outreach process to be the most effective it can be. And we are going to talk about not just email, because there's other elements that will make it effective outreach. But we have the famous Ricky Pearl. So thank you, mate, for joining us a couple of days before Christmas.
Thanks for having me on, and certainly not famous. Like I said, maybe infamous, but still working on that famedom. Thanks for having me on here. I'm really excited to talk to the community.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Hey, I actually want to ask, because some of the audience might know you, some might not know you. Can you just give us just a very quick 30-second intro into what you do and why our audience should be listening to what you have to say today?
Sure. Well, fundamentally, I run an organization called Pointer. We set up to help sales teams succeed. We do that either in an outsourced capacity, but we're doing a lot less of the outsourced, and we're doing a lot more of helping companies build really strong, robust in-house teams. And we're doing that through identifying exceptionally strong sellers for them. And we know what strong sellers are because we are sales experts ourselves, and then training them 3 times a week for a year post-placing them to make sure they really have all the skills that they need to thrive in that role and close any gaps that they might have. And as you'll know, we're fortunate enough to be sending everyone that we recruit through Growth Forum too. So they really get the best of the best.
Yeah, awesome, mate. So let's just get straight into it. So obviously, as I mentioned in the preamble, there were some changes. Can you maybe just walk us through what are those changes and how will that impact the outreach process?
So we got to start off with the fact that everyone here just has to acknowledge that spam is bloody awful. We all hate receiving it. It's a scourge on this world. And this change that's come about is really just trying to stop spam. Maybe it was accelerated by the rise of AI, because all of a sudden people could send a lot more spam much easier. And it was maybe getting a bit harder to differentiate what was spam and what was not. And so the email service providers are starting to enforce stricter requirements. There was a lot of hype, a lot of panic is maybe a better word, around the changes that Yahoo and Google brought in. And I'm happy to clarify what they were. But fundamentally, all it is this constant evolution of email service providers trying to reduce the amount of spam that lands in your inbox, which, let's be honest, we're all pretty grateful for.
Absolutely. So let's walk through this, right? So obviously there's some changes. Spam's been causing, a lot of people on the receiving end of emails that are just clogging up their inbox. So let's talk about what are the musts we have to be doing
Sure.
when setting up our email for success.
Look, I've got a guide that they can download at the end, but there's a few components to it at the moment. One of the components is your technical setup, but you really have to understand it can't be haphazard anymore. There's things like how you configure your domains, the DNS that you set up on your domains, the SPF settings, DKIM settings, or the DKIM. All of the technical setup has to be absolutely spot on perfect. There's other technicals that go into your emails now, like your bounce rates, your HTML to text ratio, your spam reporting rates is one of the big changes. So let me just give you the high level of what the panic was all about. Essentially, Google came out saying any domain that's sending more than 5,000 emails a day is going to basically be on a watch list. Like, you're going to really have to be an A player to be sending more than 5,000. Anyone who's getting more than like 0.3% spam reporting rates is going to have their whole Google Workspace banned. So your entire company can basically be put on ice because someone in your SDR team is spamming the world. Your entire domain can just stop working, which was a massive panic. What it's worked out to, though, is, well, first of all, if more than 3% or 0.3% of 300,000 are reporting your spam, it's a tough criteria, right? But we should all be meeting that as professional salespeople. We shouldn't be getting more than that reporting us as spam. And that's things like unsubscribe links, the relevancy, the personalization, having the right message for the right people at the right time. You won't be being reported as spam. But what's worked out, just so you know, a lot of the panic has died down. What they were talking about, and they were deliberately vague, was specifically people sending to @Gmail domains, and not necessarily Google Workspaces, where it's like @pointerstrategy.com.au. So if you're sending to B2C, to Gmails, or you're sending from Gmails, there's a much higher criteria and a much stricter criteria now.
But you know what? I think that even though they might have gone, hey, it's to Gmail, I think this has been a good awakening for a lot of people, right? Because there are a lot of people that have been using, and there's some great sequencing tools out there. You look at Apollo, you look at Outreach and SalesLoft, and you can keep reeling them off, right? There's some great sequencing tools that have allowed us to sort of communicate at scale. But I think that's created a lot of lazy salespeople because
it's been terrible. So with all of this panic, now Pointer sends a lot of emails. We're running the outbound campaigns for like 30 plus companies on a daily basis. Do you know what this whole change to Google and Yahoo, the impact it had on our operations? Zero. Because we're operating under the assumption that the biggest companies in the world, Microsoft, Google, are constantly working to remove and reduce spam. And I'm also working on the operation that the people that I'm trying to engage with, I can hate spam. And then if I'm spamming them, I'm doing brand damage. So if you're doing things right, and that's how our audience should be thinking about setting things up, evergreen strategies that will work next week, will work in 3 months, will work in 6 months, and it will work when the next update from Google and Yahoo come out with the next stricter requirements.
Because that's what I was going to say. Like, the reality is at some point, this, even though it's to B2C, will migrate over to the business world, because
without a doubt, it will. If you look at the requirements from like pre-COVID, like you could do what you wanted. It was the Wild West. And every 3 months, every 6 months, there's just been another tweak. Now I think they're just getting more aggressive because AI is making it even harder to differentiate. So for example, previously, if you personalized your emails a lot more, i.e. every email you sent out was different to the one that went out before it, you had a
Yeah.
much higher likelihood of deliverability. So we're all saying,
Yeah.
hey, personalize your emails, it's going to get delivered. Now you can just do that pretty easily using any AI tool to just personalize every single email. So that's no longer as relevant as it was before, because now they're going to try stop or catch that. It's like a spy versus spy, a good versus bad battle that's constantly going on here. We just want to be on the side of good, doing good work and starting honest, meaningful, relevant conversations at whatever scale. There's a saying that special operations group, the elite forces in policing and in militaries use, that is, how quickly do you need to operate? Like, how quickly do you clear through a building? And the saying is, like, as quick as you can, as slow as you need to. And that's kind of the same rate that we want to start conversations at. Okay, but you're not starting meaningful conversations, you need to slow down.
Yeah. But you know what, if we, and I just want to make sure we're capturing, the key takeaway so far. So the first key takeaway for our audience is, when it comes to setting up your email as part of your wider outreach process, you've got to get the technical setup correct, right? And you've got a bit of a guide that you'll share with everybody. So,
and if your technical setup's not correct, you can't start. It's like building a house without foundations. Like, it's all going to fall down.
So get the technical. Ricky will share a bit of a guide on what those technical requirements are. Now, you might be saying, hey, I'm an individual contributor, I can't control it. But you know what? You can have some form of control by letting management, letting people in your IT department know that, hey, there are some things that we need to have in the background. And also, Ricky will share in his guide, he'll share, I think you might share that link, Ricky, but there is a link.
Yeah. I've got it like, I can scroll right to the end of my thing over here. There's, I don't know if you can see it on my screen. There's a QR code they'll bring up, people can scan and they'll get to the guide.
We'll put that in.
Even as an individual contributor, there's things you can do to just
Absolutely.
test your deliverability and flag that with IT, who maybe don't know how to set up email domains for cold outreach, because it is slightly different technically from normal business and as usual requirements.
And there was something else that you also touched upon, which I think a lot of people sometimes miss, the image to text ratio in an email. And I have a lot of arguments with marketers who are very much, I want to be sending this email on brand, and it needs to look good, it has to have the banner, and it has to have these nice buttons when they're sending email. But there is a bit of a challenge when you do that, because when you're putting a lot of image, when you're putting a lot of HTML in an email, what it can do, it can actually trigger the recipient to block those emails or put them into a promotional or secondary inbox. So can you just talk us through why it's important to build plain text emails over HTML structured emails?
Sure. So a few reasons. If we start off with the technical, your HTML to text ratio impacts delivery. Your amount of links you have in your email impacts delivery. And broadly, the email service providers like Google have folders there: inbox, promotions, updates. One of the ways that it knows if it's a promotional or not is, does it come from a promotional domain? Does it look like any one of the other billion promotional emails sent out that day? And they'll know that based off, hey, when you just send a normal email in Gmail, this is what it looks like. And when you send it with cells and tables and buttons and links and click here and unsubscribe links and all of that stuff, well, that's a marketing email.
Yeah.
And you got to know the smartest people in the world are working at Google and these companies working that out. They know what they're looking at. It's like, it's not rocket science. But there's another point to it, which is probably even more relevant, is how many people here have genuinely been caught out by one of these AI LinkedIn messages where they're like, hey, I saw your last post and I was really impressed by X. Like, you read that and you see through the crap instantly. Our mental spam filters are stronger than anything you could imagine.
Yeah.
And the second I see a marketing email, my mind's written it off. This is marketing rubbish. This wasn't sent to me as an individual from another individual. It's like a blanket email going out saying, I hope this email finds you well. Don't give me these platitudes. That's rubbish. Versus a friend calling you up saying, hey, Louis, mate, how you doing? One, you're going to respond to. The other, you ignored the second it came out of my mouth.
This is really good, right? So I want to just make sure people are capturing this, and I want to bullet point it out. So get your structure right, make sure you're getting yourself set up for deliverability. That's the first key milestone you want.
Yeah.
You have to, you can't be engaging with your audience if they're not receiving your email. So tick that box first, right?
Unless you're in the inbox, you might as well literally be typing up your email and just clicking delete. Like it's
Correct.
that, and I can't tell you how common this is, particularly with sequences, because there's other technical elements. Your total volume of email makes a huge difference to your deliverability. The pace at which the emails go out from your server has an impact on deliverability. And if you're sending more than 50 emails a day, there's a very high likelihood you're just going to the spam folder.
Yeah.
But now with sequences, I met a team yesterday that I was training, and they were adding 100 people a day to their sequencer because that's who they were trying to call. I was like, hold on. But 70% of those people didn't answer the phone. Therefore, tomorrow, 70 of them are getting emails. And then when they get their third email or their fifth email, you've got those 70 plus the 70 from the day before, plus the 70 from the day before. You're now banging out like 300 emails a day. Like, what's your email response rate like? They're like, emails doesn't work for us. Like, email doesn't work for you. You're sitting in the spam folder.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, this is the key, right? So get your deliverability right, get your structure right, download the guide at the end so you know exactly what you need to do to get your emails in somebody's inbox. Second outcome, remove all HTML, remove all images from your emails, because again, that'll impact deliverability. And third, think about being on the receiving end of these emails. The personalization, and we keep hearing about this, and there was a lot of gurus out there that talk about personalization at scale and blah, blah, blah. And I have a different opinion on this. And I'm just going to walk our audience through, and I want to get your take on this. I've been testing a campaign. Now, at the moment, I'm actually really, really excited to share this data. I've got 60 people that I've scraped from LinkedIn Sales Navigator, right? I've now been able to book about 17 appointments, but I haven't even spoken to half the list yet, right? And out of that, so far, there's now 3 overnight. There was another one that came through, 3, what's now called sales qualified. Yeah, they're going now to a point where we've had the meeting and it's qualified, right? So inbound, the cost for that would have been significant versus outbound right now.
Yeah.
The way that I've done that, it's not just via email. I'm using a multi-channel approach. So touching on LinkedIn, sending an email, and then also phone. But what's been really interesting, Ricky, which again, I want to highlight, 2 inbound inquiries that have come as a result of that outbound campaign. So they haven't responded to my email. I've noticed they've opened. They haven't responded
check
to
out
my
your
LinkedIn.
website.
Correct. They've come through the inbound channel, right?
Yeah.
So can you just walk us through the importance of not just personalization, but why the multi-channel should surround the email and be part of more of a holistic approach, and what you do at Pointer?
We never want to admit this, but a large part of what we do as sellers is marketing. We're not going to call ourselves marketers. We've got too much self-respect. No, I'm joking, of course. But David's going to get upset with that one. It's recorded now. It's in the record. But a large part of what we're doing, if you look at a buyer's journey, is they're going from unaware to aware. When you send an email, one of the first things they're going to do, and often, by the way, we're sending from like secondary domains. So it's not going to come from pointerstrategy.com.au. It's going to come from pointer.net.au or whatever it might be. They're going to copy and paste that domain into the URL bar, and they're going to go to the website to check it out. It's like, hey, what is this person talking about? Before they reply to you, I guarantee you they're doing that. They're going to copy and paste your name into LinkedIn and see who you are. And they're going to check out your LinkedIn profile. If you've got retargeting adverts set up on your website, boom, all of a sudden, someone who knows your ideal client profile, because that's why you're outbounding to them, is now going to start getting your adverts all over the internet. Maybe they're going to now sign up to your newsletter. The next time they see you pop up on LinkedIn, maybe they connect with you. You're commenting, you're engaging in their posts because that's set up in your sequence. Omnichannel goes a long way. And one of the slides I was going to bring up, maybe I'll share my screen a little bit later. But one of the big shifts that we're seeing with outbound is how outbound is a mid to long-term strategy. That if you said, hey, I've got 1,000 companies in this country that I could sell to, and you outbound to those 1,000 companies, let's just say none of them respond. you still created some brand awareness. You still, 3 months later, when they see your advert, it's the second time they're seeing your brand. When somebody mentions it to them in a forum, they'll be like, oh, I've heard of them before. It starts resonating. You
Yeah.
are performing really solid marketing activities, which are valuable for all the reasons marketers are employed.
But I love that, right? And I think, if we talk about the future of cold outreach, I love that phrase, you're moving people from unaware to aware. And for those of you, I mean, I'm a big fan of, there's a theory, it's a change theory. You can just Google the term, and there's a term called trans-theoretical theory of change. But the reason why I love it, because it talks about pre-contemplation, contemplation, right through to when somebody takes action and even when they relapse, right? So what would I call, buyer's remorse. But I've actually mapped that change theory to a buyer's journey, because I look at, outreach. I look at when I'm reaching out to a market of people that don't know me, they're in that pre-contemplation stage. And my job from the outreach process is not to move them to a point of action, because I can't get them to make a decision if they're not ready to make that decision. My whole purpose of the outreach process is to move them from pre-contemplation to just get them thinking, that contemplation state, right?
Yeah, I love that.
And then there's
So
a
many,
whole
only 3%, or as they say,
correct.
are ready to buy. So they're going to go from unaware to aware to engaged. Maybe they're willing to
Yeah.
take a meeting. But it's entirely okay if you moved 60% of people from unaware to aware. Like you would pay marketing a lot of money to do that.
Absolutely. And again, this is where I love what you're talking about. It's more of a long-term play. This is not about, we are absolutely now the line of sales and marketing, that what marketing doing and what sales are doing, there's a big crossover, right? Because we need to go into the market. The future of cold outreach, from my perspective, is we've got to do more, get more people aware. And the reality is it's okay if they don't book the meeting the first time, but if we make them aware, we've engaged with them on LinkedIn, we've connected with them, we're starting to share insights over a period of time, it could pique their interest for them to say, you know what, this problem that you've been talking to me about, this insight that you've been sharing is now becoming something that I really, really want to explore further.
And don't forget the value of outbound as a capability, as a muscle within your business. I'll tell you some of the ways that we're using outbound, and we're encouraging people to use outbound, that is invaluable. So obviously, classic outbound, we're trying to move people from unaware to aware to potentially engaged if they're willing to take a meeting now. Can we capture some of that? That's amazing. Typically, trying to capture people who are ready to buy, you can use through capturing their intent in marketing. Outbound's still fantastic, but we use outbound to build our ecosystem, to build our channel partners, to identify solid people that we could partner with. And we outbound to them. Hey, we've got the solution. We help place salespeople that are significantly more likely to succeed. And you pay it off monthly over the course of a year. We give them training 3 times a week, XYZ. Could that support you? So fractional CROs, for example, they're not going to buy our product, but they're good channel partners. We use outbound to support that. We use those same skills for customer success, where we identify people within the journey that are maybe at risk of churn or have the potential to upgrade. And we use our classic outbound strategies to try engage them, to try upsell. We use it within account-based marketing at all levels of a deal to help build in multi-threading to increase win rates. As a skill set for a business, you can use it anywhere. So we don't want to just talk about outbound as top of funnel, but outbound is starting a conversation. All outbound is you initiating a conversation.
Yeah.
That is it. How you initiate the conversation, where you initiate the conversation, what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, who you're saying it to. All right. A lot of things we've got to work out. All it is you starting the conversation instead of waiting for your customer to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's that whole premise of being proactive versus reactive, right? And especially in a time where we've seen a lot of data to show that win rates have dropped, inbound inquiries have dropped, salespeople meeting quota has not been ideal. 2024, the one that will be more proactive, reaching out to their target audience, providing that insight, using a multi-channel approach. And also, you talked about something really important. And I think, people think, again, I'm loving the way the tech world talks about these new terms like full cycle and multi-threading, when these have been things that we've been using for decades, right? I think that that's
You'll laugh when I let me share this. Hold on, let me click here, share my screen, share a window, and go to this. Where do I find it here? I think this is the screen to share.
awesome.
Look at the slide that I pulled up here. It's so funny that you mention it. That
Hang on, we can't see your screen. Just we can see you.
Oh,
Here we go. Here we go. Evergreen
there we
Strategy.
go. Right, like this, I'm on slide like number 10, whatever. We haven't even gone through the deck that I made, but one of their like evergreen strategies. Louis, the things you've been talking about 3 years ago are still relevant. Some slight technicals have changed.
Yeah.
But the AI at the moment, for example, it's changing sales, but the way it's changing sales is it's creating noise.
Yeah.
It's creating a lot of noise in our inboxes. And our job now is just like, how do we cut through this noise? How do we actually cut through the noise? We want to start a conversation with someone. It's like approaching someone at a bar to start a conversation. There's a lot of creeps out there. My natural instinct, if somebody approached me, is, does this person want to fight? I imagine if you're a girl, it's even harder. Like if somebody approaches you, your natural instinct is, I just want to get this person away from you. Like I'm feeling very uncomfortable. But if somebody approached in the right way, in a non-threatening way, and started a real, like, conversation you wanted to engage in, we all would.
Yeah.
So the things, and I've heard you talking about these things, right? Being different. How can you be different? This is a creativity exercise. This isn't an AI exercise. I've got I think my favorite slide out of everything that I've been saying at the moment, I don't even know if is this one. We're all talking about artificial intelligence, but it's not. It's actually artificial versus intelligence. Everyone's currently just using this for the artificial side. And go check your LinkedIn invites.
Yeah.
Go check your inbox. You pick up that artificial straight away. You see it through it. There's no honesty. There's no genuine connection coming through. Whereas, can you use it to be intelligent? Right? Can we target people correctly? Can we use AI to help refine our ICP, to help us build lists, to gain insights into a company that says, hey, this is why this company is relevant to us. And then I can be genuine as opposed to artificial in how I start that conversation. One of the things you're going to love this, Louis, is one of the things all of these changes to emails and AI is happening is it means cold calling's back.
Yeah.
Right. And the big takeaway there was, well, we know cold calling never actually left.
Yes, I was going to say that. It's never gone away. Yeah.
What I put up there, if you can see it, is our connect rates. So this is just for one campaign in Australia. So it's relevant to Australia only. Nothing special here. Nothing special about this list. So anywhere from 15 to 30% connect rates, pretty common. It means 1 in 3 people's picking up the phone. It's how you cut through the noise in Australia. Well, why are we even talking about email? Like, of course you can. No, of course we're going to talk about email. But if you're not on the phones, like, you just.
But I've always used a phone-led approach, right? And I just want to touch on something that you said that's really important. You spoke about, that barrier of resistance. Yeah, when you do reach out to someone, there's always that relationship tension, and we're quite fortunate. I don't know if the audience can see who's on, but we have Tom Stanfield, who is an incredible thought leader in our industry, and a great author as well. And in his book, he does talk about the importance of lowering that resistance, because when there is that level of resistance, when there is high relationship tension, it's actually very difficult to progress any conversation. Yeah. And I think if we talk about the future of cold outreach, this is what I love. I might look a bit older because I've got my beard, but because I've been in sales my whole career, I've been able to engage with some pretty cool professionals. And I've gone through the time when, I started cold calling in a telemarketing call center, right? But some of the principles of selling haven't changed. Yeah. So if we talk about the future of cold outreach, it's go back to the core principles, the principles that, How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie, which is a book. It's an incredible book. If you haven't read it, add it to your reading list with Unreceptive, which is Tom's book. Go back to some of the core principles of sales, right? And I know that some people say, relationships don't matter in selling. They absolutely matter, right?
Absolutely.
You've got to earn the right to get to the point where you're advocating, where you're nurturing, where you're educating. And you can't do that when there's a high level of resistance, because you cannot move into that zone of influence, right? So, and again, if I look at what people do wrong from an email outreach perspective, is they're spamming their audience, asking people to make a decision when they're not ready to make that decision, because they are seeking to meet their need. They're not seeking to start a conversation. That's all prospecting. That's all the cold outreach emails need to achieve. I just want to start a conversation with you. Now, it might not go anywhere, but if I can use an insight-led approach that's going to educate you, give you some value, and even if it doesn't go anywhere, I've created a really good experience for you, and potentially down the track, we might, the relationship might kick off. But that for me is the key for 2024, that insight-led approach, creating conversations, building your relationship funnel is what winning looks like in 2024.
What a main strategy for me that I'm trying to turn into a strategy. It's a concept more, is that the messenger matters more than the message.
That's good.
And
did you come up with that?
No, I didn't. Where I actually learned about this was a theory of change. I'm part of a climate organization, and they were saying, hey, 99.99% of scientists agree. Like, the science is resolved. There's no longer a debate on the science. Yet some people believe it, some people don't believe it. Some people want to take action, some don't. And it's all about where they're getting their messaging from, like who they believe, who they trust in this. And they realize that the message no longer matters. The science is bloody resolved. It's like there's nothing left to prove. But who's telling them the news? And so this was part of their theory of change and how they're going about enacting that change. But it relates so much to sales, right? Like, if you're reading a review on a movie, you're like, oh, well, everyone's selling it. Or a review on a restaurant. You don't even trust the reviews anymore. Half the bloody reviews are fake on Amazon. I don't trust reviews on Amazon. But if a friend who knows you and knows your preferences comes and says, hey, mate, you've got to watch, I don't know, Stripe. What a good show. It's on Stan. You're going to check it out.
Yeah.
Right? You're absolutely going to check it out. They didn't have to tell you why. They didn't have to go into all the pros and cons of the show. They know you. They said you got to check out Stripe. You know what? You trust it. You're going to take a look. It doesn't mean you're going to watch it. Like, they haven't put a commitment on you. So if you can control the messenger, and if you can build up your messengers, it makes a huge difference. So things like personal branding.
Yeah.
People start saying to me, and I don't even believe it, they're like, wow, Ricky, that means a lot coming from you. I'm like, who am I? But they think, because I understand sales and outbound, that when I'm complementing their sales or outbound strategies, it has more weight, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, if you can get a board member to refer, if you can go through a network within the company, if you have a friend at the company that's happy to introduce you to the relevant stakeholder, if you can build a relationship, who will give you an internal referral. There's so many ways you can leverage the messenger. And we're looking at ways to scale that, not to that level of spam, but to a level of being able to operationalize it at an organizational level.
But what you've just touched upon, right? And again, this is why I love selling, right? Because there is more strategy. The great sellers are very strategic in their thinking. And what you just spoke about, if we talk about, again, the future of sales and outreach next year, we've got to go back to those core principles. The pursuit plan, thinking about, yes, it's always great. It's I want to hit the C-level. I want to hit the CRO, the CFO, whoever. Now, that's fantastic. But sometimes your pursuit plan should start at a different point in the org structure. It could be, I am, like you said, looking at maybe a user, maybe somebody that I know already that can start to give me a little bit of insight on some of the problems, so that I can start building my point of view, get sponsored in, and then progress that way, right? So this is where we've got to be more thoughtful. Once we built our list, once we're thinking about, what are the potential problems that they are having that we can help them solve, what's going to be my pursuit plan first, right? Instead of just going blasting the organization in a sequencing tool and hoping some of it sticks. Yeah. And there's always—
And Google's fighting it. That's the whole concept here as well. Everyone's fighting it. The people don't want to receive it. The companies are trying to block it. Your email service provider is trying to block it. And if you're fighting against Google, if your success depends on you beating Google and Microsoft, like
Yeah.
you're in a bigger battle than you realize.
That's right. And I always want to bring this back, right? And I know Alice isn't on this, but I have Alice, who was at DocuSign, is now moved into another business. But when he was as an SDR, they were using Outreach.io, and they had a certain requirement of 50 outreach, their target per SDR a day. He was doing maybe 12, right? But he was booking 5 a day with CFOs, mind you, right? And he wasn't using the outreach tool. He was doing it all manual. People talking as tech, but he was doing it manual. He was doing a lot of research on triggers. And I keep referring back to that story because for me, that just goes to show the importance of that pursuit plan and the importance of really giving thought before reaching out. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. This is something we did at a training sessions. As you obviously know, we do a lot of training with the people we place. One of our training sessions yesterday, we were talking about their numbers, their conversions rates. And I said to them, what's better? Asher gets 4 meetings attended and booked 4 meetings. And Ben has 4 meetings attended, but booked 8 meetings. There was 50% no-show. I said, who did a better job? Right. And everyone unanimously said, well, 4 meetings booked, 4 meetings attended versus 8 booked and only 4 attended. Like there's a lot more effort, wasted time for AEs sitting on the calls. Obviously, the person who did less was better. So great. Now, if you got 4 meetings booked from 10 phone calls or 4 meetings booked from 100 phone calls, who did better? Everyone universally agrees that the more you can achieve by doing less, that is better. That's called efficiency.
Yeah.
So you as an individual contributor, and this is very important for individual contributors listening to this webinar, there's 2 levers that the leadership and the managers have to increase the ultimate KPI, which is revenue. It's ARR or MRR. Yeah. That's what they measured on. That's what they care about. And they say, well, I've got ARR that I've got to achieve. All right, so I need deals won. All right, I need deals won, so I need deals opened. Okay, I need deals opened, so I need book meetings sat. And everyone then gets their own KPI based on one of these leading indicators. There's 2 ways to change how many meetings get booked. Either I can improve the conversion rate or I can improve the volume. Now, in order to improve the conversion rate, your leader has to be so close to the action. They have to be listening to every call you make. They have to be training you. They have to be so close to your role that they are able to give you those insights into how to improve your conversion. Most leaders are not there. So they'll use the lever they have available to them, which is increase the volume. And now you just get that fucking pressure. Call more, dial more, do more. They don't actually want you to do more. They just want more outcomes. So if you focus on quality, you can achieve more by doing less. And that should be all of our goal.
Absolutely. Because you know what, when we look at all the metrics that people are looking at from an outreach perspective, at the end of the day, the one metric that matters, and it is the converted metric, right? Yes, you might not be able to control that because you can't control the decisions your buyers make. You can control those other metrics, even though that one matters the most. But this is where it's important to understand, well, I'm not just necessarily after volume. And I think this is the big shift that we're going to start to see over the next 12 months is the volume play, which has been such a focus. Everybody's been trying to scale fast, scale every part of the sales process. I think we've forgotten that the most important part of the sales process is the people that are going through it. And if you look at the data that shows, 40 to 60% of deals are ending up in no decision, there's a reason this is happening, right? There's a reason because the buying committee, they're struggling to find consensus over how they tackle a particular problem, and it's ending up in no decision. There are people that are involved in the sales process. So we can look at AI, we can look at all these tech tools and say, let's try to do everything we can faster. Let's do it, scale it, multi-thread, etc. But if we don't think about the fundamentals of the sales process, no matter what tool we use, we're going to fail.
Yeah. First, get your quality. First, get your conversion. Once that's at a level that you're happy with, can I turn up the volume and maintain that quality and conversion? If
Yeah.
yes, great. Can we turn it up again? There's nothing wrong with doing more. We don't get me wrong. We run campaigns where we bang out a lot of emails,
Mm.
but I won't do it unless we're still getting at least a 10% response rate. We'll try. We'll keep turning it up until we see response rate go down. We're like, all right, we've hit our limits. But yeah, all of that is just that quality, and you can survive on volume, but you can't thrive on volume. Everything becomes burnout.
But you're also burning. Like, this is the other challenge, right? When you are spamming 100, 200, 300, whatever number of your target audience. Now, in the US is very correct, and the US is very different to Australia, right? Like, from a US market, it is massive. And for those that don't know, California is bigger than Australia. The GDP is almost double that of Australia, right? So you have a lot of people that you can engage with. Australia is a lot smaller. So in
what
some
we call high volume, they call ABM, right? Like
that's right. They call this a small part of their TAM, right? So, but we've got to be also thinking about the impact that, like you said earlier, Ricky, the impact that it's having on our brand when we're sending poorly crafted messages, and we're automating them. And I'm getting them on LinkedIn. Just I can see which ones are automated, and it's actually it's pissing me off, right? Because the type of messages that I'm getting, I'm like, this is, and it's clogging up that LinkedIn inbox, which is already hard to manage. Yeah. So I think we just need to be thoughtful of that. And I know that some of you might be listening to this going, guys, you're not saying anything groundbreaking here about the future of cold outreach, because the reality is the future is very, very simplistic. And I do want to move to questions in a moment.
Yeah.
But again, key takeaway so far is you've got to get your setup right. And Ricky's going to share a guide with you to make sure you can check it off, tick it off.
And in terms of that future, like, just to give one very practical takeaway, if you go with that concept of using AI for the intelligence as opposed to the artificial, just take that as a fact and say, all right, I'm not going to use it for anything artificial. I don't need AI to write me an opening line to Luigi based on a post he wrote yesterday. That does not scale well. However, there's no problem with getting a tool like Play, as an example, and putting in someone like Luigi's LinkedIn URL and automatically enriching the company, automatically enriching the education, automatically going to the website, scraping it, seeing recent blog posts, downloading the company's latest white paper or their 10K or whatever it is, whatever the kind of information you can have on the company, and sending that off to OpenAI to ask it questions. To say, hey, so for example, I scrape every single sales job posted in Australia on a daily basis. If you post a sales job, automatically, my tools will scrape it. It will take that job description, it will put it into OpenAI, and I then use AI to ask it questions of that job description. I'd say, or firstly, scrape the company that posted the job. Based on their company description, are they a recruitment firm? Or is this a direct hire? Because I don't want to go reach out to recruitment firms. Obviously, they're competitors. So it will tell me straight away, direct hire or recruitment firm. If it's a direct hire, I will say, okay, go tell me if they have a sales manager. Go look for people with SDR manager, BDR manager, this position, that position, and tell me if they do or they don't. And I'll say, oh, they don't have a sales manager. I'll say, all right, in the job description, tell me if the BDR reports to marketing or the BDR reports to sales. So, reports to marketing. I say, all right, go find the head of marketing. Go look at their previous job. Tell me if they had a BDR reporting to them. And I could go tell all of this. And by the end of it, I just get pushed out saying, hey, you need to reach out to the CMO. The BDR reports to her. Her name's Jane, and she's never had a BDR report to at a previous company. I know she's struggling with training that BDR. This is going to be such an easy conversation to have, all done through AI, but not one bit of artificialness there. I'm going to have a genuine conversation with that person using the intelligence that we scrapes. And if you're not using AI in that capacity, then you are falling behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, right, that is awesome. And that's just to show, I'm not using AI to the point of saying, hey, write me this particular email, etc. I love what you've just shared, and we've got to get some of that information from you to share, some of those prompts to share with our audience. But I'm doing the same. I'm using the AI tool to do some searches on companies before I reach out to them, right? Because it's helping me. Obviously, LinkedIn Sales Navigator's got some great stuff, but using Chat GPT with the plugin that does the search for you, I don't have to manually sit there and look at different articles. It'll actually do that searching for me. I'm even using it
Yeah.
to help me build personas and say, hey, build me. I
Yeah,
give it
great
the
use case.
framework and I'm like, build me a persona based on bang, bang, bang. And it literally,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because I was in Germany recently and I was running a session with some people and I said, hey, let's build these personas. And they were doing it manually. And while they were doing it manually, I actually put some prompts in ChatGPT. And at the end of it, I said, let's look at what you came up with. Let's look at what AI came up with. And you know what? It was almost exactly the same. And they were like, wow. And I said, this is the great thing about this. What has taken us usually an hour to workshop, a couple of hours, maybe go talk to people, you can actually produce that,
Minutes.
quite quickly. And that's, I think, the key to this. The future is leverage the tools, not like you said, to cut that conversation piece, to, you know, grab
Yeah. To
components of your
dishonest.
profile.
If it's a trick, if you're using
Yeah.
a trick, just stop it. So there's so many simple ways you can use it. So for example, how many times have you seen an outreach that says, hey, Luigi, how are you going at Growth Forum PTY Limited? Like, oh my God, right?
Yeah, I get that all the
That
time.
slipped through. We've all done this. We've all seen it. But now when I take company names, I'll put it through OpenAI and I'll say, normalize this name. And I've got a prompt for it. And it'll always say Growth Forum. It will never have a PTY Limited or anything like that attached to it. Similarly, often when I'm reaching out for roles and I'm talking to a sales leader and they've listed the role as account executive, mid-market legal tech. I can't say, hey, how are you going with your account executive mid-market legal tech role? I'm going to summarize that using AI to like a normalized term. So I'm going to say, hey, Louis, how are you going filling your AE role? And I might take the entire job description and ask ChatGPT to give me what they think is the most challenging part or which persona they are intended to target. Like, I'll scrape your website, say, based on the website, who do you think they're trying to sell to? And it might say, you're trying to sell to sales leaders, or you're trying to, these. So like, I can ask it questions that I'm going to use in my outreach in very clever ways.
Absolutely.
But
It'll
I'm
help
not
it'll help
writing a
you
message for you.
contextualize your outreach. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
So look,
And
I just want to make sure that we've got a few questions. So, and also let's use the last part of this session, drop as many questions as you can in the chat, but let's go back. I just want to go back because there was a question about gifting platforms. So thanks, Tom. Gifting platforms like Alice and Sendosa. And you know what? Sendosa's a great job, built a great company, right? I have an opinion, but I'll ask you first, Ricky. What's your thoughts on, we've all seen it, gifting an Amazon or a coffee voucher for a meeting?
So I love it and I hate it. I'll tell you what I love. I love cutting through the noise these days. People are back at the office and sending gifts, hyper relevant. I like it when it's a creative exercise. So you look at someone like, the Sales Rebellion, and you look at some of the creative things that they're doing that are on brand, on message, super interesting. All for it. Absolutely all for it. Trying to bribe people to come to an outbound sales meeting with a Yeti cup is just shit. Like it really is just crap. You're gonna muddy your pipeline because people are coming there with the wrong intention. But physically sending something to the office, that's thoughtful, that's personalized. I don't think it has to be high value. It really can just be a brochure pack with a handwritten letter.
Yeah, like you can send a book. Yeah, I mean, I'm of the same opinion. I saw one really good one actually. I saw a marketing agency send one of those Nerf guns, and they sent the Nerf gun with a really nice message that said, "Hey, here's a Nerf gun. When I come and meet you, I'll bring the bullets and show you how you can penetrate your market." Right? It was actually a really cool little play on words.
Well, we've seen people send customized Nike shoes, and they just send the left shoe, and they say, "Now that I got my foot in the door, I want to come see you." Like, you know what? I got no problem with that. There's been some really fun, creative ones. All for it. I just like hey, come meet with us, and if you meet with me, you'll get a 25% Amazon gift voucher. That's cheap because I tell you what, my time, those 30 minutes, you're paying a hell of a lot more than 25 minutes. It's actually fucking insulting.
Absolutely. So let's go. I hope that did answer your question, Tom. Like I said, I think for me, there are times to send it, but there are ways in which you should be sending it. So give it some thought. If they're spoken about a subject, depending, and again, think about where they're at in your funnel, right? Top, bottom, middle. If it's Christmas time, you could maybe send something to people that you've already got a relationship with. I've always been a firm believer of gifting, but it's not gifting because you're asking to receive something back, right? This is that whole law of I just want to give for the sake of giving. And if there is something that comes back, great, but that shouldn't be, I want to give you something, so you give me time, right?
Do you know what's it's an amazing gift? Let me not say better, but an amazing gift to give. Give a recommendation, give a referral, or make an introduction. Hey, Luigi, I know you've been pushing super hard on XYZ's channel. Tell me, have you ever met Marcus Kauke? I think you'd really have a lot in common. Could I facilitate an introduction?
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
that's
Love
a
that.
gift. That's a gift which is meaningful, valuable, and bloody free.
Yeah, absolutely. So love that. So we've got a couple more questions. So let's keep at it now. And Maria, we will get that. So just to more about the DNS and setting up your tech for success. So what Ricky will do, he's got a guide he's going to share with you.
Give me a second. Tell me if you can see this. Let me just sorry, I'm just doing a whole lot of stuff here on my screen. I'm just going to try to drag this to the middle. Now let me go present.
You can share your screen if you want.
Yeah, I've just got to give me a second there. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Right. So maybe if everyone just scans that, it's one of the guides. It might not have everything. And you're always welcome to message me. Like, I'm happy to give this stuff away. If it's not enough detail for you, I've got some other more detailed guides. Just connect on LinkedIn, send me a message, and I'll drop you more information.
Yeah.
I'm happy to tell you how to test it. Like, you can send an email to mailgenius.com or mailtester.com, and it will just give you a breakdown of, hey, this is right, this is wrong, this is on, this is off.
And mailtester.com is awesome, guys, because what you can do, you literally, when you go to it, I think it's mail-tester, if I remember correctly, Ricky.
I think my whole screen's coming up reversed, just by the way. So I don't know if that is going to. Somebody should have said something. But I don't even know if I know how to mirror this here. So
So it's mail-tester.com. I'll put it into the chat, right? But when you go to that, when you'll go to that website, it'll give you a link, like an address that you can email. You'll be able to email it, and then it'll give you a score, and it'll tell you where the issues are with your email. If there's DNS setting issues, if the DMARC or whatever, if there's image to text ratio, if there's spam words. So use that link that I've sent you. That'll help you, Maria, in understanding the back end. And then with Ricky's guide, you should be able to structure. It. Now, if you don't track emails, how do you track? As just
that's
measure.
A good question.
Yeah, that's a really
question.
Yeah.
So firstly, we never track clicks. Tracking clicks is almost a guaranteed way to head to your promotions folder. If you have the right tracking DNS set up, so it's a custom DNS that's set up to track, don't use like your Outreach or SalesLoft or your built-in ones. Unfortunately, HubSpot, I don't think lets you customize that. So that's part of the problem. But if you don't have custom DNS set up, don't track opens. Tracking opens can be fine. The best thing, though, to track is just one step further, which is replies. Your email should be written in such a way that it elicits a reply. Because if it's not doing its job. It's not written the right way. So we benchmark it at a 10% reply rate. I don't mind if people are replying saying, hey, Ricky, thanks, mate, but this isn't for me. That's a great response. I'll ask the question the right way if that's how they're responding to me. So I'm looking for a 10% response rate. If I'm not getting a 10% response rate, I'm testing delivery and I'm testing the messaging, because either way I need to work on this email campaign because it's pretty useless if it's not getting the responses that I need. So 10% response is like our benchmark. Yours might be slightly different. We have campaigns up to a 30% response rate, like Louis, yours on LinkedIn, the one you just mentioned, even better than that. But if it's less than 10, fix something.
Absolutely. So I think that's the thing, right? Also, if you do look at a lot of email data, they'll show that 1 to 3% is some of the response rates they're getting, or booked meeting rate, or probably response rate. So it should be higher, and that's why it's important to use Ricky's guide. check that mail tester, because potentially if it's a lot lower than that, the first issue that you've got to resolve is deliverability. Okay. And now I've also put Ricky's profile from his LinkedIn profile, my profile. If you haven't connected with me, please connect. If you haven't connected with Ricky, connect with Ricky. Now, Ricky's great, guys. Hit him up. If you've got further questions, like, this is what I love about what Ricky does and the community that he serves, is he's very, very open in sharing and helping the community and the sales profession really elevate what they're doing. So, and you know what? That's the whole part of this whole process. So, hey, I know that we're coming to a point to the end, but again, I just want to summarize before we leave. Get your email structure set up correctly. You've got the guide now, and you've got somebody that you can refer to if you have further questions on it, right? Think about the fundamentals of what great selling is all about, right? It's not about volume. It's not about completely spamming your market. The future of outreach is getting back to the basics and doing the basics very, very well. Earn the right to get time with your buyers, and you will see your outreach conversion will literally be off the charts in 2024. And be prepared to do what others aren't prepared to do. It's hard work using a multi-channel approach. Thinking about your pursuit plan before taking action, thinking about who should I engage with first? Do I get sponsored up? Do I go top down? Think about that plan. Be thoughtful about it. Use AI to help you craft your point of view, help you understand the state of play. And once you do that, then start to reach out to your audience. So there's a lot of key takeaways from this session. Thank you so much for joining before Christmas. All of us at Growth Forum, when I say all of us, myself and Dave, wish you all a really, really, safe Christmas. And don't forget, like, what Dave's going to do is I think he's going to share something via email, if that's correct, Dave, so that you've all got the link to this recording. And yeah, just thank you very much for taking part before Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year. Ricky, as always, mate, thank you for helping and your contribution to what we do.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate being here.